my name is Z, and today we are having a lot of fun with Winterfest again. And today I have a very cool guest, and to make a little change from drawing and animating and whatnot, we have Jason Marloka, who's gonna tell us about voice acting. So I've got a lot of questions throughout the year that you asked me. I'm not a voice actor, so I cannot answer those, but he sure can. So, hello, Jason.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm trying to speak English, like in English.
That's okay.
person.
English is a terrible language, so it's completely all right.
I think it's great. It's a useful language. It's the universal, easy thing everybody can learn.
But it's just made up of so many different languages, and you know we have so many sort of words that are mashups of different words of different languages. We're just a lot. It's just a lot. But yeah, I'm delighted to be here. And sorry, your intro was perhaps setting me up a little too much. You said I was a really cool guest, and now I have the pressure to be interesting.
But you are naturally interesting.
Oh, I don't know about that. We'll see by the end, I suppose.
And you do so many cool characters. Speaking of which...
Well, that is true.
What are some cool characters you've been voicing lately?
I suppose I should start with that. Let's see. Well, some of the characters that I suppose I'm most noted for are Megatron from a couple of versions of Transformers, like the one on Netflix, and the Prime Wars trilogy and things like that. A couple of video games as well. Who's been a lot of fun to play, actually, because I enjoy playing that large metal man.
Oh my god.
And, oh yes. And, let's see, Coach Nanbu from Megalobox, for anybody who's seen that. I do a lot of anime here and there, which is always fun. Like Keicho Nijimura from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What else have I done? Fire Venom Dragon from Sleepy Princess and the Demon Castle. The Demon King from Seven Deadly Sins, and then most recently I did Cortifex the Deathless from Call of Duty Vanguard Zombies, which just came out a couple days ago.
Damn.
And yeah, well, yeah. So I'm the big bad in that. You can have a lot of fun trying to banish me back to the dark ether. So that was a lot of fun. I really hope that they come out with like a statue of that guy. His visual is so cool. Yeah, so yeah, that's about where I'm at. I dabble here and there and play a lot of big spooky bad guys and some older gentlemen who are mentors and things like that. So you know, and of course, can't forget to mention, considering where we are and what we're talking about and all that, I also play Victor in Lackadaisy, which of course has been a real joy, and everybody involved with that is amazing. And there you go, Victor with a K, I believe.
Yeah, that's why
I'm gonna try writing here. Here we go. Oh no, wow, a 2-year-old is writing this. Oh my good gosh, wow.
Well, that works.
I mean, technically, yes. Oh, wait, are you using a stylus?
Of course I am.
Oh, that's no fair. I see where this. I was gonna say, I was like, how the. Why do I write so poorly? Kind of like trying to write on a chalkboard. It's like,
this is
okay, see, okay, not crazy.
There you go.
Oh my god, there we go. Now that looks like I wrote that. Perfect. Oh god. Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, that's the ABCs of me. I've done a few things, and you know, been trucking along out here in Los Angeles, and being glad to be involved in such a business. So yeah.
Questions like that, though, did you have to move to Los Angeles to make the job easier, or were you already just in the location and it just ever so happened that you can do voice acting there?
Oh, no. I was born in Indiana, and which is in the Midwest of the country here, and then I went to college in Chicago, which is about 2 hours away. So I was mainly around there for a bit, and yeah, you did anyway, I should say. Pre-pandemic, you usually had to, if you wanted to do animation and video games and things like that, you either had to go to, I believe some places in Canada, or like just Los Angeles, especially Los Angeles. But you know, it's kind of like if you want to go places for anime, it's like Texas. Or,
yeah, I was gonna say, I know about Texas. Yeah. Lots of people are there.
Yeah,
Because like
Texas is big
Funimation
for
and
anime,
stuff.
especially. Yeah, Texas is really big for anime, especially. But yeah, I was always advised that if you want to do video games and animated series things and whatnot, you know, you have to head out to Los Angeles. You have to be able to, you know, hop
Meet
into the
people.
studio whenever they need you, and yeah, network and all that. And yeah, so it was, you know, and my then fiance and now wife, she lived here in California anyway, so it was like, well, you know, I can do a lot of good things coming out here, and then be with my good lady wife. So moved out here, and you know, thankfully, business was booming and all that, and was able to get in on, you know, various voiceover things out here, and including anime, because LA does their share of anime as well. But then the interesting thing is that when the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and you know, everyone's been recording from home, myself included, you sort of learn that you know, nowadays you don't actually have to be in LA, because there's sort of a shift going on to let people record from home, which I hope also extends to like other kinds of businesses, like, you know, the businesses I think are underestimating how much they'll save on like office space rental if you just let people work from home.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's interesting. Like, you hear like a few big name voice actors are moving to Hawaii and Washington and things, like, you know, places where, because you don't have to be here anymore. So it's like, oh well, excellent. So, you know, it's kind of a shift, and frankly, if I can move a little bit away from the Los Angeles Burbank area to save some money on rent, I may do it. So, you know, it depends. Because it's just expensive to live out here. For, you know, $1 million, you can get like a footstool and an outhouse. You know,
I don't
that's
know
about it.
I've been there a couple of years ago for like a trip. Like I go often for CTN, and we went into like a store to buy some vegetables because we didn't want to die of scurvy, right? Taco Bell can only take you so far.
It's true.
But I was a student back then, and we were like, oh, maybe we can go to a grocery store. And like, of course, we're stupid, and we went to a grocery store like near Hollywood Boulevard. That's where we were staying. And we found like a broccoli for like $5 USD. It was like, I don't have $5 USD for a broccoli stick.
Yep, exactly. Everything's expensive out here.
So I ate that.
And that actually, it's funny you mentioned CTN. I was actually there a few years ago hawking product for, I used to work for XP Pen as a side job. Selling and doing tech support for the drawing tablets that they made. So we were actually at CTN.
What year was that?
Gosh, that was 2018-ish, I think.
I think that's the 1 year I was not there. Damn it! Because they sent one of my coworkers instead. You know, everybody
it's just as well. It's one of those things where I'm like, I have to stand here and recommend this to people. I don't want to. Buy Wacom stuff, everyone, or something. Not maybe not the XP Pen. Oops.
Yeah. Great thing this is pre-recorded. If you want, I can remove that part. If you
don't. Oh no, I don't care. No, okay. No. I don't work for them anymore, and we're not great to a few of my coworkers and stuff. So no.
Okay, that's great. Well, now it makes me just feel better to advise everybody to buy Wacom instead, because I think they're better.
See?
Yeah. I like the folks at Wacom. I know a few people. They're actually nice.
Oh, sure. Can't believe that I wrote Victor like that. Oh, my God.
No, leave it there. It's perfect. Okay.
I should not try and draw Victor. Oh, my God. I can't draw Victor.
So now on to the cool questions. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. And since it's the holiday season, I'd like to know, what is your favorite holiday little tradition or thing you do? Doesn't have to be Christmas related, but, you know, something we do around the month of December. You know, more time off, more time for family. Is there a little tradition you have?
Interestingly, especially since moving out to California, not so much. I mean, having grown up, my parents were pretty well off, so you know, we had quite a large place to live to decorate for the holidays. So that was always kind of a chore. And so, you know, we didn't have you know, a whole lot of stuff like outside the house or anything like that. We didn't have, you know, huge lawn ornament things or any of that, but we did decorate a lot on the inside of the house. Like, we had a very large Christmas tree and things like that, and so decorating that was always quite a task. But you know, so there was that. But since I don't, you know, live in Indiana anymore and I'm not nearby, I don't really deal with that anymore. But because of that, I think it leads me to not want to decorate very much for the holidays. Plus, we have enough spooky stuff all over our apartment anyway that we just sort of roll with that. We have a lot of skulls and creepy things and haunted mansion things and, you know, piratey whatnots. And I have a bunch of props on a shelf and things like that. And, you know, a bunch of weird stuff, little LED candles all over the place that you just turn on with a remote, you know, weird things like that. So, but honestly, it's weird now that I think about it. I mean, especially because I'm not at home. I suppose that there is a part of me that's like, maybe I would feel a little more in the holiday spirit if there was some like decorating of some sort. You know, it can be, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be denominational, but you know, or catering to a specific celebration. But yeah, just, you know, some lights or something. I don't know. You know, now that I think about it, I'm like, maybe this year that might spruce things up a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, it might do, but. Yeah, so I guess my answer is no, I don't. But you know, I'm also not. Yeah, I'm also not exactly, you know, Scrooge over here. I'm not buying everyone's humbug and everything. Like, be happy about. Especially this pandemic has taught me to, like, let people be happy about whatever they want. Like, you know, I'm not here to be like, ew, stop celebrating this. Now I will still yell at certain stores for having their Christmas stuff out on the 1st of November, but because I think that's just a little excessive. And it's like, no, let us ease out of Halloween, please.
Yeah.
Don't just yank us by the ankles.
I mean, traditions can be anything. I know for me, whatever it's like Christmas-ish time, like December, with my cousin and brother and stuff, we go outside and we build furniture out of snow, and then we drink.
Oh, that's amazing.
We build a couch. It takes hours, but then we have our couch and we just sit on it and we drink.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's fantastic. I tell you, I miss going out into the snow back when we used to have snow. Because now we just don't really get any snow at all because the world is melting. Ha ha. But yeah, but we used to get, you know, like really big clumps of snow in Indiana, and we would, we'd build forts and stuff because we had a pretty big yard, so we'd build, you know, tunnels and all sorts of stuff. Like that kind of thing was always quite something.
I was always advised against tunnels. They're dangerous.
They're very dangerous.
I remember my parents were like, no tunnels! No walking on the lake! Okay! Running on the lake, making a tunnel on the lake.
Yeah, no. So we're going to build a tunnel on the lake. That way we're not walking on the lake and we get to build a tunnel. Oh, no. Yeah, no, but so, you know, just things like that, like the simpler things. It's like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I'm not even particularly old, but I'm just like, man, when you're a kid, you just don't appreciate it very much. Like, you know, it's very strange to consider.
Appreciating, can you share one amazing positive event that, can you share one amazing positive event that occurred to you this year?
Ooh, well, I got married. I got married on Halloween.
No, that's so cool. On Halloween?
Yeah, on Halloween. Oh, yes.
Damn, that is so cool.
Yeah, my fiance Samantha and I have been in a relationship for 10 years. So it finally seemed, you know, a couple years ago like the time to pop the question, and then I did, and she said yes, and then all of a sudden a plague came down and we couldn't get married last year. So we were like, okay. So we thankfully were able to get married this year over in Berkeley, and everybody showed up. It was a masquerade themed wedding since it was on Halloween, so everyone was wearing, you know, their nice suits and things like that with a mask of some sort on their eyes and on their heads, and some people wore more elaborate costumes and things like that, and it was a grand time. Everybody kept coming up to, yeah, exactly. We thought that it'd be nice to have kind of like, you know, a classy Halloween affair, which would be
that's so creative. Congratulations. Oh my god.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so, you know, finally got that done, and honestly ever since then I've been on cloud nine. You know, we took a little mini honeymoon at Disneyland, so we went over there for a day and stayed at the Disneyland hotel and stuff, and then so it's all been really, really nice. It's all been gravy from there, and I've just been in a fantastic mood, and I've been up early and running around and doing stuff, and just glad that the weight of expectation for that is now off the shoulders, because everybody kept coming up to us and telling us that this is like the best wedding they've ever been to and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay, so this all worked out anyway.
Dude, I usually hate wedding, but this one would have been so cool.
Oh yeah, exactly. That was kind of our goal, was like, you know what, weddings can be such a drag, but let's just have this be like just fun.
I'm
let's
taking
just
notes.
have this be festive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was a whole lot of fun. And I being the Phantom of the Opera and Edgar Allan Poe fan that I am, I went there dressed as in my own variation of the Red Death ensemble that the Phantom wears to the masquerade, both in the book and in the film and stage adaptations and things like that. It's usually very different, but so that went over really well too. Got everybody pumped for what to wear for the occasion, and it was all really fun. It definitely was a little warm at the end of the night, but
It was worth it.
worth it. So worth it. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably mine. I'd like to know yours too. What was something positive from this year that you occurs to you?
I think there's so many things. But maybe one of them is I used to do that YouTube channel thing kind of alone. But this year is really the year where I've got so many people to kind of team up with me. And I met many great people. We call ourselves the Shenanigang. And it's great because I don't remember who called us like that, but it just stayed. Like, it was not my idea, but we just went with it. And they're just the most perfect people, and I hang out with them every day almost, and that's a blessing, especially now that we are stuck in our home for a while.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Also, I like Shenanigang. That's great. I am trying to draw a bat.
I'm looking. That's pretty cool.
It will not work, but I'm trying.
I think it works.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
not sure what he's doing, just sort of floating there. He's missing one of his tines, I see.
So now that we know more about you, can you tell us more about yourself?
No.
Okay, bye.
No, absolutely. Like what? What sort of things are you thinking of here?
I'm thinking about when you work. What is the thing that you most enjoy in when you do your voice acting?
Oh, what's one of the things I most enjoy? Oh, that's a nice broad question. Do you mean
we start easy, so.
Okay, that's true. Do you mean the like the process, or like character types, or just anything?
More for like the process.
Okay.
Like doing the job.
Okay. Well, what I like is first of all, I love working with directors who
know what they want.
Who know what they want, who can communicate what they want, and who trust their actors. Because I've worked with a couple of folks, I will not name names, but who don't really trust the actors, or don't think that we fully know what we're doing, or they want to micromanage things. And specific, like every single line they give you a line read on it, which is them saying it a certain way, and they want you to imitate it, rather than letting you contribute anything creatively to how you think the character would say the thing or anything. I'm one of those actors that, like, if I'm not getting the line read that you want, like, then sure, after a couple of tries, like, please give me a line read.
Yeah,
I'm
guidance.
happy to do that. Yeah, but if it's every single line, it's like, okay, now hang on, like, without even really giving me any kind of input at all, like, that can be like, I can't be that bad at this job, like, otherwise get someone else. But I don't know, it's weird. It's weird because that also makes it sound like I can't take criticism or something, which isn't true.
No, I think I know what you mean. It's not about not taking criticism. It's just it's the same with artists. Like, if you hire me to do a commission, don't tell me how to draw every line. Like, give me guidance on how the character feels, but trust my art that I can draw the.
That's exactly. That's actually a good point, because having commissioned a bunch of art now that I use for prints and everything. Like, usually I'll be like, I don't know, something like this, and then I just sort of give a vague description or whatever, and I'm as specific as I want to be. But I just trust the artist. That's actually a good point, because then I trust the artist to come up with something really cool, and then it always has been. So yeah, no, that's true. Okay, I'm always petrified that I sound like I'm being a dick, or I'm being self-important, or I'm being, so I'm always like horrified that I'm sounding like that. But so a great director who trusts the actors is a big plus for me, because then you both you can, it's easier to figure each other out at that point. and how best to work with with each other, and that's always great. And it's led to some really long lasting friendships with a bunch of directors that I when I work with them now, and when we worked then and everything, like we just have a great rhythm and simpatico and things like that when we're recording new stuff. So it's always just great for building relationships if you both just go in inherently trusting each other to get the job done, and that helps a lot.
I'm so happy about that answer, because not only can it help people who want to get into voice acting, but it also helps with people who deals with voice acting. A voice actor, I mean. Especially students, when you do your students' short film, a lot of people are gonna get like sound from people, maybe peers or friends or whatever, or professional voice acting too. And I've seen it so much because I work in a school, and some people are just there and like say the line exactly like this, and they just wait. I'm like, that's not how you do it. Like, guide the pupil, but don't have them repeat after you, because like,
at a certain point.
Like
you're not a parrot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not a parrot, you're not a robot. Like if at that point, it just doesn't lead to a very conducive, meaningful session, I don't think. But so that's a big thing for me. Exactly. Like just guide, but don't take the wheel. Exactly. Like we can co-navigate this together, I promise. You don't have to take the wheel away from me while I'm trying to work the gas pedals. So I think that's a big part of it. And also one thing that I've learned that I much prefer recording in studios anymore, because now that those are starting to open back up and it's starting to be a little safer, I like to record in studio and not at home as often as I can. Only because again, on the same line of like trusting artists, I trust the engineers.
Oh yeah, for
who are
sure.
doing the audio to really know what they're doing, and they know how to capture a voice that sounds like mine. Because sometimes if I'm not even like screaming at the top of my voice, they still have to turn the gain like all the way down because my voice can just be so big. So I find it more difficult to engineer for myself when I'm on like, it's one thing to do auditions and engineer for yourself, but it's another thing to record a show. So having a really good engineer, and I've never met a bad engineer in all the time I've worked. So they just never get enough love and never get enough credit, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because they really hold it together.
They do, and I've been on both hands. Like I've done some little voices for short films and stuff. And my brother's a sound designer, so I've been on the both end of the edge of the window, like in the room and out of the room, because I helped around and stuff. And there's so much work that goes into it.
Oh yeah, so much work, and they have to keep their eyes on so many things all at once. And if the director is like, can we have a little bit can we go half from take A and half from take B? They have to really quickly Frankenstein it together and make it sound good and all that.
It's
like
insane.
Yeah, just really quick stuff. Which I mean, I can do that, but I don't consider myself nearly as good, and I don't consider myself as efficient, and I don't. So leaving that to someone who is really, really good at it, which they all have been, is another big thing that I love about the process, because then I can really just kind of sit there and be present and try and perform the scene without worrying about a whole bunch of technical stuff, and adjusting gain and making sure my headphones are this and that, and adjusting the mic and whatever, like that's all taken care of. So that's probably the other part of it, is just a director who trusts the actors and is willing to be collaborative, and being able to record in studio and not having to engineer for myself.
So I guess one thing that you enjoy is taking what the director needs and kind of putting it into your own craft, or your own words, like your own self, I guess that's the word.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. I mean, if that's called for, I can play a lot of like kind of weird entities, like whether it's Megatron, who's a robot that turns into a tank, or like weird demons from other dimensions and things like that. So sometimes like the scope of what we're recording is like really broad. So I do kind of go in with like my own ideas of what this character might sound like, or what, because we don't necessarily get the whole script ahead of time, so we don't necessarily know the arc the character is going to go on. So it's interesting to kind of I sort of go in with an idea, but try not to nail anything down too concretely, like this is the voice I'm going to use, because then sometimes when you get in there, the director's like, okay, we were thinking something a little more like this, or like, can you lighten it up a little bit, or can you back off the growl a little bit or add more growl to it. So you
Be
have to really be able to
flexible.
exactly. You have to really be able to turn on a dime if they ask you. So that's always kind of a fun part of the process too, I guess, is having to make sure that everybody's happy and being as present as possible so that you can make those quick changes if they want you to.
Yeah, speaking of your characters, are there certain types of characters that you prefer to play? Because I know sometimes we get, like when you nail one type of character, you always get hired to do the same kind of characters.
Typecast, yeah.
But what are some types of characters that you really enjoy doing? And
well, honestly, it's interesting. I have a couple of types that I really like playing bad guys.
yeah,
Villains are really fun because it's kind of cathartic because you get to, be as nasty as you want without it actually being you. So you get to, there's something cathartic about that, I guess. Yeah, playing villains is always fun. And I always sort of joke that, like, especially in anime, like my voice kind of skipped the protagonist age. Like I never really had that protagonist voice. I've always sort of had this voice. So, with that comes, I usually play characters who are much older than myself, and or are the bad guys, or monsters, or what have you. But I'm glad of that because I find that the villains tend to have the cooler costumes, the better weapons, the bigger speeches.
They do.
There's just something about it that's so just delicious, and the villains can be a whole lot of fun, and I love that. So I really enjoy being kind of typecast as villains. That tends to happen, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind it. But I will say that I do also like playing kind of sillier things. I like doing silly things as well. There's a show that it's not been released in the US yet. I believe it's still only in Southeast Asia, but it's on Disney Plus over there. Disney Plus Hotstar, I think it's called. And it's a show called The Beach Buds, in which I play a little bird dude who is the manager of a hotel, and his name is Mr. Putu, and he sounds like this, and he doesn't like to work. And he's just, yes, he's a little what are they? They're Balinese starlings. So they're little white birds with blue on them. They're very pretty. Because at first we all thought they were penguins because we didn't know what they were, but they're little starlings from Bali. Very, very pretty. But yeah, so Mr. Putu sounds like this, and he's a little more sarcastic than I usually am allowed to do, and he's got kind of, because of his beak, he's got this kind of lisp he's got going on, and he's mostly tired and annoyed at everyone and why they can't just leave him alone so he can nap, even though he's on the job. But he's the manager, so he'll do what he wants. So yeah, that kind of thing was really fun because we also, for that show, we actually all recorded in a room together, all of the main cast. So like every week was like we got to crank out, a couple of episodes, and it was just hysterical. That show is really, really funny. Like that's one of those like all ages shows. Like it's not just for little kids. Yeah, it's really funny. We had so much fun recording that show.
I was about to ask, because sometimes, depending on the budget and on the production, sometimes the voice actors, you just must record your lines solo, like on your own, and then they kind of stitch it up together. But in some occasions, you also have the blessing of being with the same actors in the same room.
Yeah,
and,
very much.
Yeah, how different are both experiences, and are they common? Is one of them more common than the other?
Well, it used to be that you recorded everybody ensemble, but then somewhere in like the early 2000s, people started to have very packed schedules, and they still only had a chunk of voice actors at any given time. But then the numbers started going up and everything, and they had new people in, and they just couldn't handle managing to fix everybody in the same room at the same time for a few hours. So they, since then, they pretty much have recorded for most things. They record everybody individually and then stitch it together. But I will say that I'm really glad to have had the experience of recording with everybody in the same room because you really get to play off each other. Everybody's energy, and you hear the way that they said the previous line, so you can match that energy. And especially in a show that's like silly, like you can really land the jokes. It's way easier to land the jokes if you hear the way that the line was said before yours and everything. So, or the line after.
Like a little bit of improv, perhaps?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
And the improv flew back and forth. That happened a lot. because especially about halfway through the season, we had gotten really comfortable with our characters and finally knew how they thought and how they acted and all that sort of thing. So yeah, so I mean, it ended up being a whole lot of fun, and I honestly miss that group of people, and I hope we get another season or something so we can do more.
And now we talked about characters, but is there certain kinds of scenes you prefer to act, like action, humor, drama, sad stuff? Like, do you have like a preference in these kind of scenes?
Not necessarily. I mean, usually I mean, fighting scenes are kind of fun, but it depends if they have any like pre-roll or anything, or previs rather, which is anything that they've sort of mapped out already. So you have to sort of match your grunts and fighting noises to like some basic animation, which I've done I think on the first Transformers show. We had some.
That's interesting because I talked to another voice actor and they were like, "Oh, the fight scenes are the thing I like least." So that's really cool to have both opinions. That's really nice.
Exactly, it depends. Like sometimes it's really fun, especially if you're. I mean, maybe it's also because I'm playing the bad guy and they get to be, so brutal and whatever, and and kind of get to hold people by the throat over precipices and things like that, and then be dramatic and whatever, and all that kind of nonsense. So I guess I like that to a degree, but man, I tell you, if you go in for like just a fighting game and you are recording just fighting noises for like 3 hours, 4 hours, that's when it gets tiring.
Yeah, so, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, so if I get like I bring the drama indeed. If you get like a really nice I had a couple of scenes as Megatron where I got to sort of be almost like doing like sort of a Lucifer tempting kind of thing, like a very dark, serious, like you should join me kind of thing, like that kind of dramatic villainousness is always really fun. So that kind of thing is great too. But again, like with the Beach Buds show, like comedy is really fun because it's, especially when you just get in a room full of funny people, it's easy to play off their energy and it's easy to, feed off of that into your own brand. That then you just it all mixes into this nice big pot and this nice big stew of nonsense and silliness, and everybody. Once you get to learn each other's strengths and stuff like that, you can easily play off each other even better, and that just makes the next scene even better than the last. So, comedy, drama, action scenes. I mean, I like it all. I'm just happy to be working.
That's nice. How do you keep from straining or injuring and stuff your voice for a certain situation? Like, was there any characters that was a bit more straining than others, and what do you do about it?
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, well, just to harp on Megatron again, that voice, when you're doing this for hours on end and then you're just rumbling and rumbling, that can get a little difficult after a while. I can maintain it for a chunk of hours, but at a certain point, I do ask for, usually I'll ask for, there's a tea called Throat Coat that I swear by. And
nice.
Yeah, so that's great. So I'll usually ask for, because usually they'll offer you a cup, and I'll be like, "Can I have a whole pot, please?" And then an empty cup, and then they'll bring you that and some honey, which is great for your throat if it's getting a little raw. So usually I will drink an entire pot of tea during a session for Megatron. Just because, you don't want to, because while I can maintain that voice for long periods of time, the worry is that it'll strain your vocal cords too much.
That's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you hear about actors who get, throat bleed and things like that, which is where you tear open your throat a little bit and it starts to bleed. And I, then of course that sort of thing, or even tiring out your voice too much from screaming, that'll put you out of commission for 2-3 days.
That's the thing, because you can do it for the session, but you have to remember that it's a job. Like, you have to do it like every day or 2 days or something. So like,
yeah, and if you have another gig, then you can't do that and everything. So usually the usual wisdom is don't audition for something with a voice that you couldn't maintain for like 6 hours, because if you are doing some kind of thing that you couldn't reasonably do for a long period of time and you get booked for that, then you have to do that for that long period of time, and it may not make for a good time for you, and it may not please the director, who has to deal with you not being able to do the thing you were hired for, and that's so then it just gets complicated. So as long as you have healthy workarounds for, you know, a voice that might be straining after some amount of time, like me with T. Then you should be good, you know. And always vocal rest is important too. If you do a really strenuous session, you know, go home, have some tea or something, try something warm. Try not to talk too much. You know, just vocal rest. Just let your voice rest a little bit, because then it'll freshen itself up for the next session or the next day or all of that. So yeah.
I've done some improv a lot throughout the years, and that's actually one of the advice I got. Like, don't take a voice that, well, for us it was quicker. Like, don't take a voice that you cannot keep for like 5 minutes straight, because you're gonna just fall out of it. So,
Oh yeah, yep.
but that's for improv. Like, we're not professional.
Oh yeah, no, it's true though. Like even for improv, yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah, you have
accents
to-
and stuff. Like, be careful with those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, especially accents. You know, like you have to make sure that you. I mean, I just did something the other day where I had to do an accent, and thankfully, it's one I'm very familiar with, and so I was able to maintain it the entire time, which was actually a whole lot of fun. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, if you know, especially if it's a very specific regional thing, like, you know, you want to make sure that you can hang on to that and don't lose it. I mean, you always have, you know, like reference if you because I've been in sessions before where like I feel like I'm starting to lose the voice, so I check with the director. I'm like, can we listen to, you know, the earlier scene or something like this so I can hear my voice again? And you know, sometimes I am kind of starting to fall out of it, you know, and so the director's like, good idea. We listen back, and I'm like, okay, that's where it was, and then I hear it again, and I place it where it was, and then we get back to it, you know. And that's the other thing that's nice is, again, like, you know, trusting actors, trusting directors. Like, as long as you two have that going, you know, it's easy to just, you know, be like, hey, I feel like I'm falling out of this. Can we go back? And then they're like, oh, thanks for self-checking, you know, and then you go back and you figure it out. So it's just nice to have that kind of relationship with someone you're working with, especially if it's on a long-running show or something, you know.
Would you say that Megatron is one of the hardest, not hardest in terms of like complexity, but the more straining voices you've done, or you've done something even more crazy than
Yeah, I'd
that?
say. I mean, I'd say probably that's probably the most strain I've had for yeah, because what's nice about you know, getting to play the kind of characters I do is that I do have the good fortune to play something like this really growly creature, this robot in disguise, as it were. But then I also get to play Prince Renathal in World of Warcraft and things like that, and I get to sound like this, which is a nice smoothed over version of my voice. So, you know, you take the strenuous stuff with the smoother, easier stuff, and it's kind of fun that way. But what's interesting is that even the smoother stuff, you sort of, you know, have to maintain that as well and make sure that you know where that sits too, because that can easily turn down to here and then start
Oh
to
my
lose
god,
the
this is
voice,
so
and then it just
hard.
sounds- yeah,
You
and
guys
then
are
so you just
amazing.
well, you just need to remember where it sits, and that's kind of, I think, one of the big parts about voice acting is, you know, noticing where, quote unquote, the voice sits. Like, you know, Prince Renathal is like kind of up in the middle of my forehead, a little bit in my nose, you know, like it sort of sits up there. And Megatron, he's way down here in my chest. You know, he's deep down in there. So yeah, as long as you know like where a general voice, you have to place the voice when you're like, I'm trying to find the voice, find the voice, there he is. You know, like you have to sort of search around through your resonating chambers and
Damn,
find
this
out where you
is
put
so
the voice.
cool.
It's weird. It's weird. I just have a weird face. With a lot of weird resonating chambers, I guess. But yeah, Megatron is definitely, especially in fighting sequences where he's just like, you know, I'm not even going to blow out my mic, but you know, things like that, throwing robots around and whatever, you know, like that sort of thing. Like that can get a little intense. But that's one of the reasons why when I first auditioned for the character, all I did was this, and it was just the growl thing and whatnot. But when we started working on it, we decided he actually lives here. But then when he emphasizes something, that's when he goes down, and then he comes back up again. So usually it's a little easier to maintain if I do it that way. You know, so that way it's not just the growl throughout. It sort of fluctuates in and out.
That is both smart and really great, because it makes when he speaks with the growling voice just even more powerful, because he doesn't use it all the time. That is so great.
Exactly, yeah. Because I remember at one point, like the good line that emphasizes that is, you know, in one of the shows, Megatron's arguing with Starscream, and Starscream's like, "You only want it for yourself," and then Megatron goes, "Let me show you what I want," and you know, he gets to go really down into that emphasis, low growl area. And so yeah, using it for emphasis actually ended up being a lot of fun too, because it's just spookier. And he's, you know, he's this big robot, and his voice sounds like this big rumbling engine, is what we thought. So so getting to do that was a lot of fun.
That's really cool. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Smart, smart. Yeah, before we talked about what you like enjoyed about the work, and a lot of people who want to get into voice acting, they kind of only know the good stuff. But what are some things that you didn't expect would be challenging or problematic or a little on the harder side from doing voice acting as a job?
Consistency, you know.
I was
Someti-
writing be
'cause-
consistent, and now you say that. Oh my god.
Yeah, exact consistency. Yeah, because that's kind of the trick of it is, as they say, if you you know, are booking constantly, like after about 10 years, then you're an overnight success in this business because there's just no overnight success. You know, you kind of expect that once you network enough and once you meet enough people and you're personable enough and you work enough and all this stuff, then everything just kind of rolls off, and you know, you get a gig, get a gig, get a gig, get a gig, get a gig. But it's not that way, and it has nothing to do with if you're good or not. I mean, I guess some of it does, but it just has to do with, you know, there's a big pool of talent, and they pull a lot of folks from that, and so you're constantly up against other really great professionals and stuff. So, you know, sometimes you'll get the gigs, sometimes you won't, and you have to be able to plan for when you don't get the gig. You know, like I mean, there's huge spans of time where you just don't get anything. And that happens. And so that was something I was not quite prepared for, because I had this idea starting off, like, you know, years and years ago. You know, oh yes, well, once you start working consistently, then it just, you know, it just doesn't stop. And it's like, well, no, that's not true. Like, it does stop at a certain point, especially in like the winter months is when productions used to, anyway. I don't know about now, but they with COVID and everything. But they used to work would kind of stop because they would stop producing things at that point, because usually they're doing stuff in the summer and spring. So yeah, like, you know, when I was doing so well with you know, voiceover stuff for a little bit there, and then all of a sudden the end of the year hit, and all of a sudden nothing, and you're like, oh, I gotta pay rent. Oh god, what's this? You know, like so, you know, so it's just a really big good wake up call though, where it's like, oh yeah, gotta pay attention to that kind of thing, you know, and plan for that. And that's been fairly consistent. Again, I'm not sure if that's you know, how that's going to happen with COVID stuff, because I mean, we're all able to work from home, and probably won't be a huge issue. But who knows?
And,
you know,
and worldwide, because of COVID, lots of live action gigs are getting cancelled over animated ones. So maybe that's going to be like a change in the dynamic of like the workload and availability of voice acting, because if there's more shows being made, I guess there's more talent that will be needed. So that's a crazy shift, but it's true. I've seen it like everywhere in the industry.
Oh yeah, and I mean, that's kind of the hope, is that you know, that things can. And I agree though, is like a lot of people have been turning to animation as such a viable thing, and it's like, yeah, it's always been a viable thing. It is animation is a medium, not a genre, guys. Like
Yep.
you can make anything animated, and just because it's animated does not mean it's for children. Like that always drives me nuts, that, like, you know, people think that you know, I'm not even talking like Adult Swim stuff or anything, but just anything that can tackle serious subject matters or not serious subject matters. Like, I hate the idea that animation is for children or shouldn't be taken seriously, and it's so I love whoever said it first. I love that it's a medium, not a genre. Because you know, animation can be horror or drama or comedy or anything. Like, animation is a way to tell a story. It's not like that. It's just not a genre, guys. Like, come on now.
And even
So
for like simpler stuff, like for actual thing that is designed and made for kids. Like, I like to think that the world would be a better place if more people actually watched My Little Pony and knew how to deal with their emotions.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, that kind of thing, absolutely. Where it's, yeah, like, I mean, yeah, a lot of people just don't have the. That's another thing that COVID kind of helped me out with, was sort of being more emotionally available, like for myself. You know, like being able to actually take that time to those sort of things that maybe I didn't learn or didn't have to consider prior to suddenly being locked up, all of us alone and whatever, you know, like, and all that stuff. So that It helped me a lot. So yeah, I completely agree that anything that deals with ideas like that is just smart to include, whether that be, you know, any number of shows. But yeah, so I completely agree with you there. I think that we could all stand to have a little more that we're paying attention to within our own selves, and how we should treat other people and things like that. It doesn't even necessarily have to be preachy or for children or anything like that, but just something that just, I don't know, everybody needs to be able to deal with themselves as people and others as people, I guess.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning the workload and availability thing with like the fluctuation of work, because I forgot to put it in the question list, but it's so important. And even in animation and in live action, like my brother, he knows that January and February he's not gonna shoot anything because it's winter in Montreal. Like it's -40. Like nobody wants to film outside at -40. So
there you go.
Usually productions stop around these months, but you have to be prepared for that. And same for voice acting. There's like seasons, because then they're gonna record your production, then it's gonna be post-production where there's less voice needing, and these have seasons. So be careful with your gigs, people.
Exactly. Don't ever take a gig for granted, and you know, make sure you set aside some of what you make so that you can. It's like hoarding walnuts for the winter or something, you know. So that way you're good when the cold months come. You know, that kind of thing.
Yep. And speaking of being prepared, oh my god, these things just roll. It's so smooth, so nice. Before we get to having to worry about like having work or like all this, the work availability and stuff, are there some exercises or activities that one interested in voice acting, but without like schools or proper programs available? Because, you know, it's not worldwide that there's like voice acting schools. I haven't seen them around me, at least. So are there some exercises or activities that somebody who's interested in this could do on their own to kind of try and learn it, perhaps?
I mean, especially with, I'd imagine that practicing, you can practice easily enough at home. Like, I mean, it's easy to get even a decent quality microphone for your computer now. You know, like it's super easy to do that. So, I mean, I started off, you know, essentially fan dubbing without realizing it's what I was doing, because I used to, when I was a little kid, and you know, it continued for a while. I would go around with a little micro cassette recorder, and I would record like a movie or something like that, or a show, and then I would go in and like sort of redub on my little recorder. I would just go to the spot where a character is talking, and I would like re-record myself doing that role, and like sort of re-record it over what I had previously gotten, and sort of like redub it that way. So that kind of thing helps you with, like, you know, timing or learning what you can do vocally and things like that. But so I don't know, things like that are probably easier to do on a computer.
Yeah.
But yeah, like doing that kind of thing. I mean, the trick is, like, you know, fan dubbing and such is not something that you should include on a professional reel or anything like that. But you know, in terms of practicing, especially for something like anime, if you're trying to match to lip flaps and things like that, I can't imagine that would hurt. And you know, so that kind of thing is good, and really just seeing where your voice goes and what you can do with it. You know, just one of the things that I do to warm up if I'm driving to a gig is I will sing. Usually I'll do that as a vocal warm up, because it's just a great way to open up your vocal cords and, you know, free up your tongue a little bit and just articulate some things and whatnot. Occasionally I'll do, like, you know, those old theater warm-ups going, you know, things like that, and lion face, lemon face, and whatever. You know, things like that. But, you know, just play with your voice and see what you can do with it, because I've learned that, especially in the world of anime, where, you know, I used to kind of audition for characters that were not quite in my vocal range. It's, while it is important to know what you can do, it's also just as important to know what you can't do, so you don't strain yourself or set yourself up for disappointment. You know, like, I can't audition for the young protagonists in an anime thing, like, because I'm just not gonna get it.
How would that sound? Like,
terrible. So, you know, I just don't have that kind of range in me. I can't play young kids. So, you know, so that kind of thing, it's important to know what you can believably do and what you can't do, so that way you don't set yourself up to to fall on your face. Um,
But to
you
do
know, because
that,
that
you
might
need to try it. So that's why you
exactly
need to do fan dubs, you
exactly.
need to try some stuff.
Yeah, just try stuff, see where your voice goes, read poetry, write poetry, and then record that, like record an audiobook, like, all sorts of things. There's all sorts of things you can do to try it. Singing again is a very, very useful way to do that. Even like stand-up comedy even would teach you, mic technique and things like that. There's a whole lot you can do, especially in the world of, YouTube and TikTok and things like that. Like, that sort of thing seems like it would be so easily accessible and easy to use as a tool moving forward. So I think that, really just play around with your voice and see where it goes, and just revel
And
in yourself.
I also heard you mention like get a good mic, and
Yeah.
I'd like to push on that a little bit, because I know that not everybody has the money to get a $5,000 mic, and that's not the
Oh, God, no,
point.
yeah.
But there's no way you can land the role if you record yourself with a little cheap $5 microphone you got from a PlayStation game, like a SingStar game or whatever. So I
Sure.
think it's important to have a minimal amount of quality in your mic, because that's the only thing between you and the person listening to you is the mic, because you can have a wonderful voice, and if you record it with crap, then it's gonna sound not that great.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
hard to put it like that, but it's just true.
Yeah, I
Be
mean,
careful.
it does. Yeah, there's a certain amount of investment that has to happen,
Mm-hmm.
but what's nice is that even it doesn't have to be a super expensive
Oh,
microphone
no.
to sound good. So that's so it's it's not even like prepare to drop all of the money, but it's more just like try out a mic and see if it works for you, especially for your voice. For example, like for my part, I've had a bunch of different mics here in my own studio, and finding one that can really capture the baritone notes in my voice, was kind of tricky for a while. Like I tried, a Neumann U87, and for some reason with my setup that just didn't work really great for me. So I ended up having to sell that, and I ended up settling just fine on the TLM 103, which is still a very not a cheap microphone. So
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like you have to run out and grab that by any means. There are plenty of other mics to do just fine starting off with, and certainly you can book all manner of things with. I mean, I've known friends who have booked a whole bunch of stuff using like a Yeti.
That's
You
what
know,
I was
like
gonna
there's
say.
the-
My brother's a sound engineer, and he said, well, he told me that last year. Maybe it changed this year. But he was like, for a USB mic, under $200-ish, the Blue Yeti is the best thing you can get. It doesn't get any better than that for that
Yeah.
price range. Because
Yeah,
then
for
if you
sure.
go to 200 or 300, the quality will not be good enough to validate not taking a Blue Yeti. So it's
Yeah,
either you get a
exactly.
Yeti to start, and then once you know what your voice is, then you can buy a more professional microphone, because you will know what you need. Because like you
Yeah.
said, for baritone, it's not the same as having an alto voice or something. So.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's you have to find something that really can get that low end in there, and so yeah, a microphone is important. The environment is important. If you can soundproof something even a little bit, even if you're just recording in a closet full of clothes or blankets or something, which I have certainly done before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that can dampen the sound. Just have a nice environment if you can. Yeah, it's a lot of it is just playing around with what you have and what you can get, and just trying to see and not trying to agreed with your it's a marathon, not a sprint thing, because that kind of runs in here too. Like, don't be too quick to need to jump in and need to do the professional thing all the time right away stuff. Like, just slow
You'll
and
get
steady
there.
does win the race. You'll get there. Like, I mean, I got there. Like, it's
Yeah,
fine. Like,
we all
just
did.
take your just take your time. Like, it's fine. If I can get there, there's room in the pool for everybody. So, yeah, hop on in.
Oh, I love this one. What are some of the most useful tips you have received from a peer or mentor or a friend or something for your craft?
Pretty much all that I just said.
All right, well that works. All right.
Yeah, some of that's personal experience, and some of it is like stuff you hear about, and then you sort of like, oh yeah, put this into practice. Oh yeah, this is a smart way to do this, and like, oh, it does matter what I, especially starting off and whatnot. Like that's been super helpful. Trying to think of something else that's,
Well, that
Well,
works.
one big thing is just kind of on a personal level is like don't take yourself too seriously. I certainly don't take myself very seriously. You know, um, so have be humble. Don't. At the end of the day, we're all just glad to be doing cartoons. So, don't pretend that it's rocket science or that it's, something unattainable to the common man or something, none of that nonsense. Like we're doing cartoon voices and it's fun. So let's all just be grateful that we are able to do what we do, because that's something that I try and remember all the time. Is like just be grateful that you're able to do this for a living, So that kind of thing. Just stay both feet on the ground, kind of thing. Just keep your head about you and don't get too carried away with don't buy your own publicity, that kind of thing. So I guess just stuff like that, simple things where it's like stay humble and be grateful that you get to do cartoons for a living, and don't try and be something you're not. Just chill out. Like most of the folks who work in this business for a long time are like super chill and cool. And don't ruffle a lot of feathers and don't take themselves super seriously. And they don't, everyone's
Same
kind
for
of
animation.
Goofy. Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, like, just don't take yourself too seriously and be glad you get to do what we do.
A more technical question now. Like, you've worked and still work on multiple projects. How different is it to dub and versus voice acting?
That's interesting. It's I'd like to be like it's very much the same except technical, but it is absolutely.
I don't think
not,
I don't think it sounds like the same.
No, it really isn't. Only because, and actually, this is something that kind of trips me up when I'm recording anime things too. Is that I will, I'll usually refer to it as I'll be like, I pulled it too much, didn't I? Because I don't have the amount of time within the lip flap allotment to pull the performance as much as I want to and bring the performance out and whatever, and then the lip flaps are done. So like, oh, we got to do that faster. I'm like, damn it. So, there's a lot of, one of the big things about dubbing is that you have just a set amount of time to convey all of that emotion and all of that epicness or all of that battle sounds or whatever. Like, you only have a certain amount of time because you have to do it within the lip flaps. You have to include the pauses where the lips stop moving and stuff and then pick it up again. So it's just dubbing tends to feel a lot more technical, but with something like an original animation or a video game, you usually have a little more freedom to bring whatever you want to that performance without being limited by the amount of time or the intensity of the lip flaps you see. So yeah, I guess that's the main difference to me. And like, do I have a preference for one over the other? Not particularly, because like. Dubbing is fun because, especially with anime, I don't watch a lot of anime, so I never know what to expect. So sometimes it's something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is super weird, and I love that. And so I was not expecting like, what the hell's a stand, and like, what's this, and I don't know. So it's fun to have like the director have to be like, are you familiar with this show? And I'm like, nope. And they're like, okay, here's what it is, and then they just give you like a 3-minute rundown of whatever. In the JoJo's case, like insanity it is. So I guess the main difference is mostly a technical one, which just has to do with the amount of time you're allowed to have to deliver a line. And doing it over something that's previously been animated can help if you can look at the intensity of the expressions or something like that. Usually if a character is really impassioned, then their mouth is really big, or they're yelling a lot, or they're gesturing or whatever. So that can really help with you don't have to wonder so much what it's going to look like or whatever, because sometimes you record an animated show or a video game and then you don't see it for a year, then it comes out and you're like,
4.
Yeah, exactly. And then it comes out and you're like, oh, okay, that's what we were doing, but with dubbing you kind of see it right in front of you, so that can help. But yeah, mostly it's just sometimes I want to be too dramatic with or too intense or too something with the dub, and it throws off the timing, so I have to start over again.
Because I've heard lots of things from working in a school. They're like, I will never do dubs. I want to do voice acting only. And I'm like, but both. I mean, from the exterior, like both look fun because
you're aware that it's all voice acting, right?
Like in dub, you kind of have to take what you have and make it your own, which is in animation that's what we do with storyboard, like, so that we still have freedom in there. It's just you have to have freedom within the boundaries that they give you, and because not only the mouth flaps, I guess you must also kind of act with the the behavior of the character. Like if he's doing like gestures with his hands, I guess that's also something you must fit in. It must be really hard. Like I raise my hat for that. It's really cool.
It can be. I mean, what's interesting is that, you know, you learn how to do it over a certain period of time, because mostly my process for it is, and I guess I never really learned if this is wrong or not, so it might be entirely wrong, but it works for me, generally, is, you know, they'll usually play you the Japanese so that you can, and when they play the Japanese line or whatever, I listen to it / look at it in my peripheral vision, and then I read the English line, and I just try to time it out with the emphasis of how I'm going to say it. So then I know, okay, this fits in there, and then, and you know, sometimes I pull it a little too much, but usually I can get it in there, you know, pretty decently to time. And then you go in. There's 3 beeps, and then on the 4th beep, where the 4th beep would be, you launch in, do your line as you had just rehearsed it in your brain, and you should be good to go. You know, usually it's a couple of takes or whatever, and you're good. So it's not all that crazy after you do it for a while, but it sounds a little daunting at first, especially because there are different kinds of dubbing. Like there's what I was just saying, you know, you sort of listen to it, read the script in front of you, and then go. But there's also another kind of, I'm not sure what the term is for it exactly, but I treat it like karaoke. Because it's basically the picture's up there, and then there's a ticker along the bottom of the screen where the words that you are going to say are like matched up to time within the picture above.
And it goes boop, boop.
Yeah,
boop,
it goes boop, and there's like, and
I've done that before.
And it's scrolling along, and you have to, you know, watch it, and you say it as the scrolling lines hit the little red dot or whatever might be in the middle. So it's kind of like karaoke, yeah, and you have to do it that way, which I was not familiar with prior to. I think I first did that on Miraculous Ladybug. I think was the first show that I did that on. And yeah, I was not prepared for that because I was like, oh my God, it's like karaoke.
I knew I heard your voice somewhere in that show. Who did you dub? I forgot.
Oh, yes. I play Thomas Astruck, the director of his self-insert. I play him. He plays, he gets turned into Anna Maestro in one episode.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. It's funny because, yeah, indeed. That show's really fun, especially because it's directed by one of my favorite people ever. That's Ezra Weiss, who directs the dub of that, and he did Megalobox as well. So we got to know each other pretty well, and I miss that guy. I hope he's doing okay. You know, I haven't reached out in a little bit, and probably should.
Well, you know, that's how the industry is. Perhaps you're gonna have a project in the future, and you'll get to work again together.
I hope so, because I loved working with him. He's just phenomenal. Everybody on that cast was great. So.
Like in animation and acting, like every project sounds like back to school. Usually, like, oh my God, who am I going to be with? Like, in what class am I going to be with my friends or something? I know we talked about like the reaction and hit noise and grunts before, but what is challenging about doing those? Because everybody wants to get into voice acting. Sometimes forget that part of the job. It's not just about poetry and saying lines. It's also about your character reacting. So how do you put yourself into like the mood of your character? Because like Megatron getting hit will not be the same as the director getting hit or something. So yeah, how do you embody the character like that? Because it must be so hard.
It can be. I mean, that's an interesting point. Like it depends on you know, the character. If you're a weak little fleshling creature, then you know, you may not be as sturdy as, you know, a 20-foot robot or whatever. But yeah, so it depends on the character. Like, because honestly, sometimes fighting noises can be so can be interesting, because like at the end of a session, especially for video games, usually you will do you know, like okay, give me 3 takes of you lifting a small object, you know. You know, whatever, because you have to make a noise when you do that for reasons. It's kind of like in movies. It actually kind of annoys me a little bit. In like in movies, when a character aims a gun at someone and it makes a cocking sound, even though they didn't cock the pistol. Yeah, but everything has to make a noise, because
this is so annoying.
Everything has to make a noise,
but it works.
Exactly. Yeah, and somehow it works. So that's kind of the same thing with, like, if I'm picking a stapler up off a desk, I don't go. But you have to, because it's just how they do it. So, so you know, lifting small object, you do 3 takes. 3 takes of lifting a medium-sized object, you know, whatever, and then 3 takes of lifting a really heavy object. And like, you know, whatever, like things like that. So doing that sort of thing can get to be tedious after a while, just because it's like, you know, then you're sprinting and you jump a short distance. You're sprinting and you jump a medium distance. You're sprinting and you jump a big distance. You're running really fast and you jump a big distance. You know, things like those little individual specific things can be, especially if you've been standing up recording like the rest of the dialogue all day, because usually they do this at the end so they don't blow out your voice with like action sounds. But yeah, if you've been recording all day, sometimes it just winds you down at the end of the day, especially when they're like, okay, now I need 20 seconds of you running. You know, and you're like, you know, and then you're sitting there sort of winding yourself by not even by actually running, but by making the noise. Then you're breathing so fast, you have to go at the end of that, and you have to sit down for a second. At least I do. So yeah, so wait, what was the question again?
The question was about like.
Am I even answering your question?
It is, yeah. We were talking
Okay,
about reaction and hit noises and
great.
What's challenging about doing them and how
Okay.
can you kind of learn to make them better.
Perfect. Okay, that's what I thought we were doing, but I'm like, oh my god, did I go way off track? Yeah, no, it's so yeah, a lot of it is like, you know, essentially our job is to play pretend and pretend we're someone else for a while, and you know, that kind of thing. So you know, when you break it down to its bare bones, so you know, just sort of, I think it's Richard Horvitz is one who talks about, like, you know, when you're a kid on the playground, you know, and you're pretending to be Superman, like, you're not thinking, am I convincingly being Superman? How do I convincingly be You just are Superman, or whatever. Or in my case, say the Joker or something. I don't know. I don't think I'm one to play Superman. But yeah, that kind of thing where it's like, you know, just believe the thing you're doing in the moment, and sometimes that takes a little time, or it feels a little silly or whatever. But you know, you just have to get over that, and you can you know, do any of that stuff. Like, you know, you're getting hit in the stomach, you're getting hit in the face, you're getting, you know, your arm gets broken, you know, you get stabbed in the back or whatever, you know, like things like that. So just imagine what that would, you know, sound like or feel like or whatever. And then, because usually, especially with action noises, it's easy to like give that some physicality. Like, you know, especially if you're swinging a sword or something, I'll often raise my arm up and, you know, whatever, like bring it down, or thrusting something like I'm stabbing or whatever, or, you know, doing a lot of physicality for stuff like that tends to help it land a little better too. So don't be afraid to get into it. It's easy. You're just sitting there with a booth, in the booth, and there's the director across the way, and, you know, so don't worry about looking silly or anything like that. That's something that I definitely had to get over.
From supervising people doing like these voices at school and stuff, I know that a lot of what is hard is because people get shy. And
yeah,
I mean,
everyone's afraid of looking silly. We all are. I have been too. So
that's
you know,
it,
I
right?
get it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
We can't just say like don't be shy, because like you can't, like, it's an emotion you feel, like, and embrace it. It's true. Like, you can be shy.
Yeah, sure.
But some things that can help it is usually like doing the move actually like makes it less awkward. So if that can be an advice, take it.
Exactly. And like, you know, there has to be some kind of separation, and it took me a while to get this too, because I consider myself a pretty kind of quiet person. I may not seem like it, but I you know, I can be a very kind of introverted person and whatnot, and I don't necessarily think of myself as free of shyness by any means. So but after you just work at, you know, not being afraid of looking goofy, because like some of the faces I've had to make for some of these voices like looks really dumb. But it doesn't matter, because it sounds the way that the director wants it to. So, you know, who cares how stupid you look? Like, it doesn't matter. You're getting to play this character. You're getting the sound that they want. And at the end of the day, the check cashes. So you're fine. You know, everything adds up and you're good.
If it's any consolation, when we draw, if my character just broke his arm, I will, and he makes a face, I will make a very stupid face as I draw it. So, like, you know, everybody does. I'm happy that we're not recording.
That we have that. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Honestly, especially with the, I find myself doing a lot of posture stuff lately, or like, you know, especially eyebrow stuff. Like, I do a lot of stuff with my brows or my eyes when I'm doing certain things, like Victor from Lackadaisy. Like, he is very severe, and he's down here, and I tilt my head forward and glaring over my eyebrows, and, you know, doing this thing. So he's like kind of a very internal character and whatever. So like minimal movement usually it like works for him. He's one of those like backwards characters where you don't flail around a lot to get emphasis. You have to do less with him because he's so, kind of stoic and quiet and like a statue or something, or like a big monument or whatever, like, because he's just such an immovable character. Like it's interesting to play that kind of steadfast sturdiness, and then just sort of, I don't know, there's something about him that's so sturdy that like you don't want to move too much while you're performing him.
Well, he's a very solid character.
Yeah, he's just very solid, sturdy, like a lobster.
Like a lobster.
I think that's from Lilo and Stitch. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe. Huh.
Yeah, yeah. It's when they're looking for a dog when they first come across Stitch or whatever, and the her sister is like, we need something sturdy, and then Lilo's like a lobster.
Oh my god, I love it.
Underrated movie. That movie's actually pretty cute, as I recall. I haven't watched it in years, but that
it's so good. I like that it's kind of real. Like the struggle that they have for the family is really real. Like as a kid, I was like, oh. Even as a kid, I was like called by that movie. I was like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah, right. It's like sometimes stuff is difficult. Sometimes stuff is not like a perfect scenario, and so then, there's some. But then they also have all this great like sci-fi stuff in it, and goofy.
It balances out
characters and whatever. Yeah, but then they have like that realness. That's true, though. That's true. Like you don't see that a whole lot.
Yeah. I had a question, but I forgot it, so I'm gonna go with another one. Yay!
Alrighty.
Okay, in terms of more like a practical thing, what is a typical day in a voice acting gig? Aside from like when you record from your computer, for example, but like going there, how does it sound like?
Do you mean like what a typical day in general is for me, or like specifically like a day where I'm going in to record, or?
If you're going in to record.
Okay. Well, usually for me, it's more like you spend a little bit of time in the earlier, depending on when things are due. You do some auditioning first, after waking up and warming up and things like that. Just a little bit of stuff in the morning, but then now I'll just go with a day when I'm recording. Okay, so erasing all that. There's usually I start. I'll have my coffee or whatever in the morning, and then I'll hop into my car and start heading towards the studio. Usually the studios I work at tend to be about 10 minutes to an hour away, depending. The hour is usually just Los Angeles traffic. But when I start heading over there, that's when I crank on something that I sing to in order to warm up, like I said, and I've usually got a big old trusty steel water bottle with me and all that. So if I need to lubricate the vocal cords a little bit, I can do that. Yeah, usually I sit in the car, and as I'm driving, I'm singing and just trying to get my vocal cords going and that kind of thing. One of the things that I like to sing, for some reason, it's my one of my go-to songs is "The Hell of It" by Paul Williams from the Phantom of the Paradise. For some reason, that's that one, and no, that's the main one, but yeah, for some reason that one really works as like a well-rounded song, especially for the kinds of characters I play. If I do it in kind of a growly voice, then for some reason that opens up my vocal cords really, really nicely. So I'll usually sing something like that. Head on over there. You get to the studio, they buzz you in. Usually these days they'll take your temperature and things like that. But then they'll ask you if you want any coffee or tea or anything. And if it's not Megatron, I'm usually like, I'm good with my water. If it's Megatron, I will ask for the pot of tea and some honey. But yeah, then you just kind of, usually we just sort of go right into it. You go in and you meet the director if you haven't met them before, or if you have met them before, then you make fun of each other for a little bit, and then just kind of get to know the project. And then you just sort of go into it, and again, like it comes down to the director trusting the actor and the actor trusting the director, that you can go on maybe a little synopsis of the show, and then you can just dive in, and then you just try stuff. And if you've auditioned for the role that you got, then they might play that back for you, so you can be like, let's get into the voice, and then they'll play that for you so you can match what you did in the audition. But if you didn't audition for it, which happens sometimes, then you just start exploring vocally what you want to do with the character, what you were thinking, what they were thinking. and you end up landing on a voice. And then once you land on the voice, you're off to the races, and you just dive in and get to work. I hope that made some sense.
Solid answer.
Yes, it's usually pretty relaxed because everyone, if you're a jerk and you're in voiceover, you're not going to last very long. Like, everyone's usually pretty chill.
Same thing for animation. You might be a super talented artist. If you are not fun to work with, you will not have a long career.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Just don't be a dick. Golden rule. Just don't be awful.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, I promise. Like, just don't do it.
And you mentioned like meeting with the director and going in at the studio. So what is the relation you have with the script, or like in that case, like what the director says? But more importantly, like what is your relation with the script? Like, do you tend to learn it by heart? Do you receive it like prior to the session? Sometimes you have to kind of like just read it on the spot. What are the kind of different scenarios you can have?
Well, that's interesting. That's actually one of the reasons that I wanted to get into voiceovers, because I started off doing theater things and a little bit of film for earlier in my college career, and that's when I realized, man, I don't really like memorizing stuff. You really don't memorize stuff in voiceover. You can if you want, I guess, because sometimes they give you the script ahead of time. But no, usually you read it. It's cold reading. You know, you're given the script on the day.
I guess for sound, for songs and like singing something or reciting something, I guess you gotta learn it by heart-ish. But
yeah, I mean, sometimes, like I was doing a singing thing the other day, and for that, usually, a week out or whenever they cast you, they will give you like a MIDI of the song or something like that, or some sort of example that you can listen to if you're an auditory learner, and you can just sort of learn the rhythm that way. And sometimes they do give you the script beforehand, but I usually don't read over the script too much. I may look through it, but I don't know. I find it way more organic if I can just do it on the day. So yeah, usually I don't go through it and try and commit a whole bunch of it to memory, because the problem is I don't want to marry myself too much to like one way to read this line. If it's like Winterfest 2021 with Jason Marnoka, if I read that over and over and try to memorize it or whatever, I'm like stuck in that one line read, and I don't have, the ability to do like to easily do like different versions of that read.
That's true.
That's me anyway. So, so I know that I'll lock myself into that if I try to adhere to it too much. So I prefer to just go in cold, and that way everything's just kind of, open to interpretation on the day. But also it depends, because like with Megalobox, I was asked to by the director Ezra to actually watch the whole show subbed first, because I needed to know, in a way that the script could also probably tell me, but they didn't have the script for me to. They didn't want to send the script all the way over, but I needed to know where my character, Coach Nanbu, like all the things he was doing, sort of on the side or under the table, so that would like affect the way that I was reading a line, or the way that I was, crafting a lie for the character or whatever, if he's lying to somebody or he's doing something underhanded. I needed to know like the underlying motivation for that. So I did watch that entire show and went in with that, which was, I've never really had to do that since, but that actually helped a lot. So, that kind of sort of research can be helpful.
It's nice to have your take on it, because I've watched an interview a while ago. I think it was Todd Eberkorn who was doing an interview about the behind the scenes, and he was saying that for a show he was doing one of the main guys, the heroes. So
he would.
Yeah, I mean, he has a voice for it.
Todd's
so.
great. Oh yeah.
So he was doing the heroes. And it was a dub of a Japanese anime. So the show was already there, right? Done. It was there. So he was asked to not watch the show because he was not supposed to know what was going on. But the other voice actor doing the bad guys, and I forgot the name, he, like you said, was asked to watch the show so that he knew what his motives were when he spoke. But like as a hero, he was like, please don't watch the show so you don't know what's gonna come. And I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting to give them like the sort of flipped directives like that. That's great.
I guess that's something. I guess that's something you don't get with just the voice acting when you act the character. Like if you dub, I guess like the show's already there, so that is an opportunity you can have to kind of know what's gonna go on. So that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that either. Like I thought we could just go into it, but he was like, you really should watch this show first. I'm like, okay. And then I did, and I fell in love with it and learned all the sort of subtleties and nuance of the character, and that
What
did
show
help
was
a
it?
lot. That was Megalobox.
Oh, okay.
But
Sorry, I thought it was another one.
oh no, that was still Megalobox. That's the only show that I've really been asked to watch it first. And yeah, and it did help a lot. So I can't say that he was wrong because it helped me identify, like the characters, like what he wanted in all the scenes and what he was trying to get to a little better. So yeah,
Yeah.
super
Okay.
helpful
So
actually.
usually for songs and like singing stuff, you usually get the text before, so you can kind of familiarize yourself with it.
Yeah, you get like usually you'll get like a digital version of like someone singing the song or something,
Oh,
so that
okay.
you can get the rhythm down, you can get the tone, the what the song sounds like, so you can sort of get that in your head, and so that going in, because yeah, it's awfully weird sometimes if you're thrown in and like you don't. They're like, all right, we need you to sing this song, and you're like, huh? I'm a musical person, but what? I
But for
still don't
everything
expect that
else,
necessarily.
okay, yeah. But for everything else, usually you don't like. You're not expected to learn the script by heart. You're gonna
No.
have it. You can familiarize
Yeah.
yourself with it, but you don't learn it by
Yeah,
heart. Not like
no, you don't have
acting.
to. Nah, no, you don't have to memorize
Nice.
it, which is nice. That's the nice thing about it, because it can be both challenging because you don't get necessarily, especially if you don't get the script first, you don't get to, dissect the scene or figure out certain specifics all the time. Like sometimes the director has to just nudge you in that direction. But yeah, but it is definitely less to commit to memory, which is nice, especially if it's like a video game, which is 150 pages of of stuff to do.
And online with the script as well. That's a question I got from some of my subscribers. So I think I kind of know the answers, but I want to be sure. So I want to have your take on it. When artists do the voices, they have the script, but where do they get the expression information from? Like, is it the director telling you how to kind of express the thing, or is it written in the script? Like, how is that communicated to you?
Sometimes both. It depends. Certainly in anime, it's nice because you get to see, very visually like what they're doing with their faces and everything. But usually it's within the script or it's within the context of the scene. If you're not recording with other voiceover people, usually like the director will read along with you to sort of feed you the previous line, especially if it's like a dramatic scene or something and you have to respond to something by like, rounding on them furiously and being angry or whatever. They'll read the previous line so they can read you in, and then you can jump on it that way, and it can flow a little easier. But
So it would be
usually
written.
yeah, it can be. It can be either written or the director has made a note, or like it. So the director will tell you, or especially if like you do a read of it and your emotion is like way off. It's like, oh no, he's way angrier than this or whatever. Like so you need to crank that up to 12 or something. Or
So you get the
so that
script. It's like interior night near the fireplace. Megatron is super sad because he didn't get his flying fairy toy.
yeah, which obviously you'd be upset about it. So Megatron's like, I didn't get that flying fairy toy for holidays. Santa's not even real. Then the director will be like, no, he's angry about that. So crank that up to 9. Oh, I didn't get the fairy flying thing for Christmas. Santa's not even real. Like whatever. And then so moving on from that, you kind of fluctuate based on what the director tells you. Also, poor Megatron. He'll get in the holiday spirit one of these days.
But you know what toy I'm talking about, right? Is it the spinning one?
Oh yeah, no, I know. That's exactly what I pictured. I was like, okay, it's 1996, and you see that on a commercial. Yeah. But yeah, so it really just depends on the director, because sometimes it's in the script, and sometimes the director wants to bring their own way to it, and so they'll just explain it to you. And a good director can easily put you in the moment. So.
All right, hey, we're almost done. Only one, actually 2 questions. This is one I ask for everybody who come on the show. If you could, because now you do voice acting, that's great. But is there something if you could excel in another discipline that is not your main area of expertise for now, is there something else you one day would like to kind of dabble in? Maybe like, I don't know, script writing or animation, who knows? Or are you really into like voice acting, and that's also great?
Well, I mean, I am very much into the voice acting thing, but honestly, one of my first grade loves was writing. I do enjoy writing. I'm still actually working on some pieces of my own. And one of the things that I actually first went to college for was screenwriting. That was when I first went to college, was to try and pursue that, and then from there I kind of got more into the acting scene and was like, oh, okay, I'll switch over to theater and do some of that, and then eventually I was like, oh, but voiceover, there's where it is. So yeah, but I started off doing screenwriting, and yeah, I do love writing. I love reading. I love the written word and all that. So I would love to be more of a writer. In terms of I probably could use some brushing up, but I
Yeah,
would
but
love
it's
to do
nice to
that.
have
Honestly,
multiple interests. So that's cool.
sure, absolutely, and I would love to be able to animate things like that. That would be wonderful, but I just can't. I mean, my bats are kind of crippled, as you can see. So I don't know if I should quit my day job just now, but I think that's sort of I love watching, like Fable and everybody work, and like even just watching you just write out things so neatly is just nice to me. So I don't know, and seeing your work and your animations earlier and everything, like it's all just so delightful. So I would love to do that, but it's one of those things that I've pretty well convinced myself that I just don't have time for. I'll never have time. I'll never learn this. I don't have time. But it's just a matter of setting some aside and maybe
It's
taking a
okay.
crack
Everybody
at it,
has different skills, and that's all right.
Yeah, very much. But yeah, so those are some things that I do, both script writing, and I'm just fascinated by like the entire process of making animation.
Yeah. And it's Christmas time. Well, kind of, depending what you celebrate. It's time to give to
It's
other
a
time.
holiday season.
Yeah. So time to give back. Do you have any advice or anything you could give to the lovely people watching this video? Like maybe, like, I don't know, videos or books or something that can be helpful for people trying to learn voice acting?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, there's oh my gosh, hang on. Let me search uh the depths of my brain.
If you don't have them now, that's fine. I'm just gonna add them
No,
to the description later. That's all right.
oh no, absolutely. There's a book called Ultimate Voiceover written by Jeff Lupetin. He was one of my professors. And I think it's called Ultimate Voiceover. Is that what it's called? It's called, yeah, Ultimate Voiceover. Okay. It's called Ultimate Voiceover: Getting Started, Getting Hired, and Getting Better. And that's written by Jeff Lupetin, who was one of my professors in college. And he is fantastic. He's one of the more brilliant, funny, personable guys, and still working, and he's fantastic. So definitely check out his book. It's very helpful on how to get started, how to keep booking, and just some good tidbits of information. So I do recommend that. And also, honestly, another one of my recommendations is what's nice is once you're in SAG-AFTRA, you can write it off as research on your taxes. But watching movies, watching shows, that kind of thing, so you can get a feel for both the temperature of like performance and stuff that everybody's kind of leaning towards these days and looking for. So that helps a lot. Just watching stuff and kind of keeping your ear to the ground. And it just it opens you up to so many kind of characters and stuff like that. I was watching something the other day where Mark Hamill was talking about like the Joker and things like that, and I'm pretty sure he was referring to the Joker when he was talking about this. But he was saying that a little bit of the performance in that was when he originally did Batman the Animated Series. A little bit of that performance was like Claude Rains from The Invisible Man. Which I immediately knew, oh, that's what he's talking about, because I love old black and white horror movies. So things like that. Like what's interesting about voiceover is that you can take like very obscure, even bad impressions of like older actors and use them for a new character, and it's great that way. So checking out older stuff, older cinema, older shows, things like that can really help in a lot of ways. And I don't know, I for some reason that's always helped me, is just enjoying movies and seeing what everybody's doing now, and and we all watch movies anyway, so just keep doing that and you should be good. Those are, I guess, my big things: is don't take yourself too seriously, read a couple of books on voiceover, trust yourself, and check out some movies that maybe you haven't seen yet.
Nice. That is such a great answer. I wrote the book suggestion on the sheet. It's by Jeff Lupton, right?
That's right, Jeff Lupton.
And final words as artist, because voice acting and drawing are both arts, and we're all artists. We tend to be a bit more on the sensitive side, and sometimes we have like lack of motivation, or like things like everything we do is just shit. We have these rough passes. I have them. Everybody has them. Oh yeah,
sure.
But we all have to pull through, right? Because it's art and it's what we love doing, and I mean it's a job. So, do you have any advice for artists / everyone going through these dark periods?
Well, I mean, yeah. The nice thing about voiceover is that there's always such an abundance of work that the curtain's never really down. You just have to kind of wait for it to rise again. Sometimes, like there's always it ebbs and flows like anything else. So you have to really remember, like, if you're not booking, like, this isn't necessary. This doesn't mean you suck. This doesn't mean that you're never going to get hired again. This means that it means that you may have to sort of reassess what you've been doing, ask your agent or what have you. See if there's anything else you could be doing on some other front or what have you. Like there's I guess my big thing is like don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to say you need help. If you need some help, if you need some guiding advice or what have you, just ask somebody. It's easy to feel alone in moments like that, but you're not. And especially like the voice acting community is very warm. So if you and your contemporaries are kind of hitting a low spot, just, know that you can keep each other afloat.
Well, thank you for coming to this interview, video, fun time, social thing. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. No, this was great. It was really fun to just sort of sit down and talk, even though I kind of got away from myself and talked a little bit, I think. But it was fun, though.
Me too.
It was nice to be able to, kind of get some, try and help people out. It feels nice, 'Tis the season.
It is. All right. So do you have any final words?
Yes. In so much as I want to know what your final words are. What do you think if you're feeling down? What advice would you give?
What advice would I give? Honestly, I usually give the same advice that you did. Like, be consistent. Don't be a dick. And my advice would be maybe to keep yourself like open to advice and to learning new things. No, wait, I've got my advice. Make mistakes.
Oh, there you go.
Because making mistakes is so important. Everybody makes them. I make them all the time. I think the important thing is, like, the bad thing is not making mistakes. It's when you don't learn from them. So, like, screw up. And as one of my game dev friend would say, the sooner you fail, the better. Because then you can just learn from it quickly. Like, don't try to make everything perfect and then you release it, or you try for the job and then you fail. And then you're like, oh, crap. Like, fail often and learn from it.
Yeah, exactly. Every failure is a learning opportunity. That's absolutely excellent wisdom.
That's a good one. Yeah. I'm going to write it down. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And have a nice rest of the day.
No, thank you. This has been great. And I appreciate you, friend.
Oh.